Hi, my name is Kennedy Bowers, and today I'll be presenting on blockchain technology. I chose this topic for my literature review due to the increase of buzz around Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. I wanted a deeper understanding of the technology that underlies these new cryptocurrencies. Therefore, I chose to focus on the following 5 research questions. I want to start out understanding the basics of the new technology. What is blockchain? How is it currently being used? And what future implementations of blockchain exist? After I understood blockchain a little bit better, I wanted to dive back into my initial research interest, which lied in how is it tied to cryptography and how is it connected to cryptocurrency. So to start, I focused on what is blockchain. Blockchain is an open distributed ledger that records transactions between two parties that operates on a peer-to-peer network. So essentially, blockchain is what the name suggests. It's a chain of different blocks. Each of these blocks contains a hash. The hash serves as the fingerprint for the specific block, or the identifier. The data is the record of the transaction, whether that be the amount of money, where that was located, the item being traded, maybe all three, maybe one, etc. It also contains the previous hash. This allows it to maintain order, along with irreversibility. Because each block references the previous block, editing one requires editing every other block following. And because blocks are continuously added to the chain, this is near impossible, given that the hash is created when either a block is made or that block is trying to be edited. So as those hashes are regenerated, you'd have to edit every one in the chain, which is impossible. The blockchain itself is distributed because everyone in the network has a copy of the chain, which ties into this peer-to-peer network that exists. Because it's a peer-to-peer network and everyone has a copy of the chain, everyone is responsible for the integrity of the chain. There's no central entity that says this is good, this is bad. With that being said, each block must be approved by 50% of users to be added to the chain, otherwise the transaction fails and the block isn't added. So now that we kind of understand what blockchain is, it's important to look at how blockchain works. So essentially, there's a transaction that wants to happen between one user and another, whether that be money or some other form of asset. Once this happens, a transaction is then created into the block. The hash is made, the block is there with all of the data and the previous hash. The block is then sent out to every party in the network. So now everyone that has a copy of the chain gets to look at this block. They then get to decide whether to approve the chain or approve the block and that it's valid, the transaction is valid, or they can say, hey, this isn't valid, this isn't right, I'm going to decline that block. But once 50% of people approve the block can then be added to the chain and added to the transaction of records. Once a block is approved, the transaction can go through between person A and person B. Next, I wanted to look at how blockchain is currently being used. Blockchain is being used across many industries, not just cybersecurity, as seen here listed on this slide. But for today's presentation, I really wanted to focus on a few larger companies that more people are familiar with. The first of that being Spotify. Spotify uses blockchain to connect artists and their tracks to their licensing agreements. That way, they have this chain that's irreversible so that they know, hey, this license is valid at this point in time, this song can be played, etc. The next company I wanted to highlight is more broad. It's more of the food industry as a whole. They use blockchain to track contaminated food along with the location that it was contaminated. One example of this is Walmart recently used blockchain to verify that the romaine lettuce it was selling had not been contaminated. This allowed an increase in customer trust with the products they were purchasing. Lastly, the last company I wanted to look at was Nationwide Insurance. They use blockchain to verify that a user has purchased insurance and what type so that they can more quickly complete their claims. So now that we've looked at a few instances of how blockchain is being used, it's important to look at what future implementations are available. For this presentation, I focused on PGP, which is pretty good privacy, which is a security measure, and also early adopters, which is a more abstract implementation of blockchain. So for PGP, like I said, is a form of security. Similarly to blockchain, PGP is built on a distributed web of trust in which users must vouch for each other's trustworthiness. Blockchain Blockchain can continue to help improve the security measure by providing a level of transparency between transactions. Since blockchain is a distributed ledger that every person has a copy of, it is easier to verify that a user is not breaking trust and/or the honor system. It would be much harder for two individuals to participate in collusion or interfere with that PGP privacy. A blockchain PGP key server is in the prototype stages. The server would require a more fragmented but logical form of storage, as blockchain can only accept 80 bytes of size, and a key could be up to 1,300 bytes of size. However, the retrieval of the key would be much more efficient. These keys are used to keep information secure. By making the retrieval process quicker, it will keep users happy but will continue to maintain the necessary security. And then the next implementation that I said I would talk about is the early adopters. In 2014, MIT performed an experiment where incoming freshmen were offered $10 worth of Bitcoin. During the experiment, half of the distribution of Bitcoin was delayed, split between natural early adopters and natural late adopters. They then proceeded to track the Bitcoin transactions through the blockchain technology. The summary of this study showed that naturally early adopters rely on finding some value, either monetary or socially, to having exclusive access to a product. Additionally, the natural late adopters needed the natural early adopters to invest as they rely on them to learn about these new technologies. This study is beneficial to the future implementations of blockchain because, as shown in the study, blockchain can be used to track transactions as a way to verify different research studies as done here in this study. Additionally, as more use cases appear for blockchain, we now know the importance of natural early adopters and the exclusivity they need to make successful implementations of blockchain in the technology world. Now that we kind of understand blockchain as a whole, I want to tie it back again to my interest. The first one of those being cryptography. Blockchain uses cryptography to secure the identity of the sender and ensure irreversibility of past records. By hashing the data, the transactions along with the contents of the data are secure. The chain functionality is what prevents the irreversibility of past records, as I previously discussed when we were talking about the chain. As for cryptocurrency is essentially digital money. Blockchain is used to then record and verify all the transactions that occur with said digital money. The most common cryptocurrency being Bitcoin. People called miners solve complex mathematical problems and are rewarded with Bitcoin, which is then able to be traded. Blockchain is then used to ensure the validity of these transactions and trades by verifying the money exists and that the transaction was supposed to be occurring and the user wasn't hacked. So then in conclusion, blockchain is a relatively new technology that is currently being used across many industries. Many people are finding new uses for blockchain, such as improving security through PGP and understanding the importance of natural early adopters. With any new technology comes a responsibility to understand the capabilities of said technology. I believe there are many more uses to be found for blockchain and look forward to continuing my research and understanding of the technology as more is discovered. Thanks.